Welcome back to another edition of That's My Time. I'm your host, Greg Aidala. Very excited about today's guest, a very funny man that spent most of his entire life in the world of entertainment and comedy. Before we get going, though, I just want to thank my sponsors for this show. Of course, it's QUAIL Auto Sales. That's owned and operated by the Aidala family, my family, in Albany, New York. And we've been in business since 1943. We're celebrating 79 years this year. And also Coach Me Greg. Those are my coaching services. If you need a management efficiency or life coaching guidance to get you to the next level of your life, to become the best version of yourself, drop me an email and I'll have that email address in the comment section below. So now on with the show. I'm really excited to have legendary comedic writer, actor, and novelist Tom Leopold on the show. Tom has written episodes for Seinfeld, Will and Grace, Cheers. He's worked with Bob Hope, Lucille Ball. He was in one of my favorite movies from the 80s, Mr. Mom, and he's also authored 3 books. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tom Leopold.
Howdy, folks.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good. I called for the life coaching.
Okay. Oh, you did? All right, great.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be interviewed.
Yeah, we're going to.
And also, I want to get some oil, my oil changed.
Yeah. Well, that we don't do, but hey, I can turn you on.
All right. Well, maybe you start thinking. Maybe they should think about it.
Maybe they should. Maybe we should after all these.
Shake
years,
it up
right?
a little bit over there.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, it's good to see you, Greg. Thank you for having me on.
It's really good to see you. I'm glad that you made it through, you and your family made it through COVID, and you're healthy. And yes. I really do appreciate you joining me. For an interview. I'm really excited to have you here. I'm very familiar with your work. And in fact, we talked a little bit briefly that, I met one of your friends, members of the Friars Club, and I met one of your friends, good friends of yours, Paul Schaefer. I was having lunch at the Friars Club, and there you were a number of years ago having lunch with them. And I said, and that's when we actually started correspondence. And I said, I really want to get inside Tom Leopold's mind.
Oh, no, you don't, man.
No, well, I know.
I've been in here. Believe me.
I know. I can imagine it's like a beehive. But yeah. I really like what you've done, how you've grown in your life, and what makes you tick. So, which we'll get into Paul Schaefer more in your work with him a little bit later. So you're born in Miami. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And then you don't like Miami?
Well, no, but people always are surprised by that because it is a weird place to have been born and grown up.
You're right. Yeah, because you usually retire there.
Yeah, it's like you grew up in Aruba or something,
Right. Yeah. It's
a very foreign place, and it was a very foreign place.
Sure. Well, you had Cubans and.
Yeah, it was not just. I don't even mean.
No, I know.
Tropical and weird and humid and crazy.
It is, but I think Miami, especially like the South Beach area, is it's not like any other place in the U.S.
No.
And I often tell like my nieces and nephews, I'm like, go see it once. It's a beautiful place. I really do. It's high paced, but I find it to be a beautiful place.
Oh, I love my old hometown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
When did you folks leave?
Which folks? Parents?
When you left Miami.
Which folks?
Your folks. Did you as a family leave, or did you leave for college or anything?
No, I left for college. No,
you did.
Parents, I was born there. My parents were there, and I left to go to acting school at NYU. I was 17, and I get in there. I had an audition in New Orleans for this. It became the Theatrical School of the Arts, NYU, right? I couldn't have gotten into college any other way but auditioning because I had such terrible grades, and I was a horrible student. It was a huge humiliation, and I'm still trying to work it out with my therapist. But
keep going. I'll give you some life coaching too.
Not going well, but anyway. So I came up, I was the youngest boy at NYU's. First day I meet a guy named Christopher Guest and another guy named Mike McKean. And we've been friends since I was 17 and they were 9. They'd already been to college 2 years. So that was like a big jump,
Yeah.
It's a big difference when you're that age. Yeah.
It is. And
we started to make each other laugh. And I realized these guys are the funniest guys I've ever seen in my life. And I'm making them laugh. So I must be funny.
Yeah.
I'd never even thought that I was funny really until I got that sort of, because I knew how funny they were.
Yeah.
And I knew that. So if I'm making them laugh, it great. So we've been friends. God, I don't want to think about how long. But
Right. But that's what's interesting, because you were young, you met those guys, and which to the day are hilarious. I actually just watched Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman just recently again.
oh, yeah.
And you work with Christopher Guest, and then you and Michael Keaton obviously is just a fantastic actor and writer. I mean, how could you not like Spinal Tap? I mean, truly. I mean, it's just brilliant.
Incredibly funny man.
I'm sorry?
An incredibly funny man.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
person to person.
That's the thing. I was just going to say that it'd be great to be in a room and get them going on life.
Yeah.
And
it was like really playing in a really good band.
It's like playing in the Stones.
Yeah, it's like when you're Stickling, and you're playing with those guys. That's why it's so hard to go to other places where there aren't funny guys as funny as that. It's, if I go to a party with my wife and I, it's like, and it's not snobbery. It's just, it's like, I don't know what to say to anybody.
But that's why I think comedians are, though, and writers, comedic writers are that way. It's not that we're not snobby and you go to a party. It's just when you're around those like minds, you're like, I need that, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's limited. I mean, it's not a virtue, I guess, but
right. No, I got you, but no, I understand that feeling for sure. So you start writing for National Lampoon magazine, correct?
Right. I was 19, 20. Yeah.
Yes. And so two things with that. How did that come about?
I was an actor, really. I came up and I started acting right out of acting school.
Okay.
And a story that might be funny to you is wasn't funny to me at the time, but after the first year of acting school, they bring me into the office, the teachers and all this, Olympia Dukakis and and all these people say, Tom, we're going to hold you back a year at acting school.
What did you do?
I had to tell my father, Dad, they're holding me back at acting. I said, kid, how can anybody be held back at acting school? I said, I don't know, Dad. I wasn't playing my moments. I don't know what it was. But anyway, I told them, you can't hold me back. I just was cast in this very prestigious off-Broadway play called Saved at the Cherry Lane Theater. So I said, you can't hold me back. I'm working, Yeah. So as an actor. So I'm like 99% of the teachers and the students, I actually had work, But so I was an actor, but even at night, and I was kind of working as an actor from 18 on, but the Lampoon thing came because Chris knew somebody up there, and we went up there and made up a story on the subway on the way up, that a magazine article we wanted to write desperately, which we were just making up at the moment.
Yeah.
And this is way back in the, so I'd often be doing a play somewhere and writing pieces for the magazine or doing stuff for the radio hour, which we could talk about because that's where I met everybody, Billy Murray and Chris and Chevy and everybody.
Sure.
But Belushi. And so, so we go up there and made up this story, and Henry Beard was there, and the guy they did the whole movie about, Doug Kenny.
That was going to be my next question. So you worked with Doug.
I only worked for him.
Okay.
Because he was running that magazine, and we did a piece for them, a couple of pieces, and then got into the radio hour. Chris, of course, did much more of it than I did. He was, really is, but we're all on the back of the album, Golden Turkey album, where it's on the back. It's everybody. It's Bill Murray. It's Belzer. It's Chris, me, Belushi. I don't know if Gilda's in it. Anyway,
that's just an all-star lineup. All-star lineup.
There's probably never been anybody who's known people who've gotten so successful from one group, like me, because I feel like I always say about myself, I'm not near great. I'm just near the greats.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a bridesmaid.
Yeah. Right.
Damn it, Tom, we're gonna make you a bride someday, Tom. I promise.
Yeah. Well, I always call it like I'm never the ever the pragmatist, never the prag.
Ah, yes, yeah, that's good. I like that line.
Yeah, I don't even know what it means, but I like it too.
Yeah, but it's good. Put that on a shirt. Start selling it on the internet.
Got a good rhythm.
Yeah, right. You grew up learning your voice, really knowing that you were funny when you were around these, these funny mind and like people, which is it's so true, especially in comedy, and the same thing with any arts. Like you brought up that example of music. You've got to be in the room with musicians, and that's when the jams start to come, and you can really riff.
Yeah.
And it's great because I have friends that write for late night shows now, and it's the same thing. They're in the room, in the cutting room.
Yeah,
and,
when you're in the room, especially.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to, you work until 2 a.m.
And it's so special because you can't really express and let someone know that feeling of when it connects and goes. It's better than anything.
Well, the room, we should explain for people not in show
Sure.
business, although there are very few people not in show business anymore.
Yeah.
But I think there's 5 or 6 people who aren't in show business. But the room is where all the writers would have to gather every day from morning till morning.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
Shows and so you get exhausted, and the Chinese food comes in, and you're bloated, and and you're writing till, and so if you start doing bits and characters that you make up in the room, everybody does it.
Yeah.
And it's just and then by 1 a.m, the word duty becomes the funniest thing anybody's ever heard. And that goes into the script. I mean, you're so washed out and drained.
Yeah.
The silliest thing makes you laugh. And then you put it in the script, and then the next day they come from rehearsal and go, what is this duty joke? Oh man, we were tired. We'll rewrite that.
Yeah. It's great. But you're right. It's a really good energy about those rooms.
Can also be not so great. But
no, because it's tedious. It's hard work. I mean, writing comedy is truly hard work. And everyone just thinks it's easy because now, especially, when you said everyone's in showbiz, everyone has a phone. They all think they're funny.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that in a little bit because I want to hear your take on the shift of comedy. But before we get there,
this gives me time to make up my take.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Think up a take.
Sure. Let's you've worked with so many great people. That some that we mentioned.
Lucky. Yeah, absolutely.
And really.
My heroes.
Yeah, sure. I can imagine. And heroes to many, just great comedic minds.
Yeah.
Who even, is there, and I know it's a tough question to answer, but is there anyone that stands out that you work with that you said, or you're just really, wow, I had that moment to work with, like Bob Hope or Lucille Ball. Is there something like that and a lesson that you learned or something they taught you?
Well, I got a lot of those because and each one of those moments when you're a kid and these are your idols. I mean, for other kids, my generation, it was, or girls, it was Elvis. For me, it was like Jackie Gleason and Art Carney and Bilko and Johnny Winters and Steve Allen. And so I got to work, I mean, I'll tell you, Steve Allen was, in my generation, the Dave Letterman, right?
Yeah.
And he always had these great people on, and he was a real hero to me. So down the line, I'm acting and writing and both things. And now I'm writing. Steve Allen had a show.
Mm-hmm.
He had the first Tonight Show, for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, and as a kid, I idolized him and his show. And then all of a sudden I got a job writing on his show. And he had 6 shows in the summer. Sounds like the dinosaur days, where they would have summer replacement shows and try them out and see if they could get picked up and never. But anyway, it's a variety show, which is another dinosaur. But so the first day of work, maybe I met Steve, but I don't think I really met him. We're at a location in Santa Monica outside a movie theater. And we're going to film a sketch that I wrote. And I'm standing next to Steve Allen, who was 6'4".
Oh, I didn't know he was that tall. Wow.
Oh, I don't know, 6'3". I mean, he was really, really tall. And I'm decent. I'm 5'10". So he was way up here. He was like here, right? So I'm standing there, and I'm in love with him. You know what I mean? I love him like a god. And I don't know what to say, and I got to say something. And I look over at him, and I see that he's got on his neck, he's got a round Band-Aid on his neck. Pimple, or he got him shaving or something. And without even thinking, I reach up and I put my finger right on the Band-Aid. On Steve, I have to really reach up high.
Yeah.
Put my finger on his Band-Aid that's on his neck, right? And I lean into his neck and I go, "Hey, Gwen, have Fritz bring the car around. I want to get a haircut at 2:00." On the way back, I want to pick up some stuff at Gelson's, and I'm just holding my finger on this thing next the whole time.
Yeah.
I haven't said a word to him yet.
Yeah.
And I leave it there, and just near the end of it, I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I just done?
Yeah.
Because I loved him so much. I wanted to connect in a funny way with him.
Yeah.
It's sort of a tribute, and also to let him know maybe I'm okay and whatever.
Right.
He fell down laughing.
That's great.
Fell down laughing. I mean, I could have been fired so easily.
Right.
But that's the kind of guy he was. He was the greatest.
It is great. And you know what? I'm glad you took the risk and did it, because that's a hilarious bit.
I don't know that I have the guts to do it these days. But
right. It's so great, though. I mean, there's the boss, the king, and you're just like, you know what? I need some stuff.
All I wanted was his approval.
Yeah.
And then he ended up, I'll tell you a great thing about it if you want, but
yeah.
Then he'd bring me to his house, and he wrote he was writing a magazine article about who's going to be, this was the 80s, and the thing was, who's going to be big in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote my name in there with Catherine O'Hara, because Catherine O'Hara and I both were hired on that show as just writers. Can you imagine just hiring Catherine and not just making her a writer?
Right.
So I wrote him back thanking him. I said, gee, Steve, thank you for mentioning me as being big in the 90s. But if somehow you're wrong, would you mention me again in the 2000s? I just said that to him. But anyway, so Catherine and I are writing on this show, and I started writing pieces as Steve's writer.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Leopold, Steve's writer. And then he starts putting me on the show in these bits that I wrote. And then I started being in all these sketches. And Catherine too. And at one point, Catherine and I and Donald O'Connor, the great song and dance man.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And a comedian named Kay Ballard. He puts me and Catherine together with the great Donald O'Connor and Kay Ballard. Men are in tuxedos, women in evening gowns, and it's like a review, like a sophisticated review. And Steve wrote all the songs. And Catherine and I are dancing and singing with Donald O'Connor. I mean, it's ridiculous. Donald O'Connor, another one of those guys who I loved.
Yeah.
Idol,
And it's such a great, don't you just feel it's surreal when in those moments, you're like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? I mean, this is what I've, wanted to be around, and then it happens, and it's a great feeling.
It is. It's amazing. Yeah.
It is. It is great. And those are great stories. Thanks for sharing that, especially about like Steve. I know my father's going to really enjoy that story. So that's good to hear. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take we do a pause right now, and we're just going to give a quick shout out again to our sponsors. Again, I'm your host, Greg Aidala. This is an episode of That's My Time. With me, the very funny and legendary comedic actor and writer, Tom Leopold. So what we'd like to do right now is I just want to thank QUAIL Auto Sales, our sponsor, for their support over the years. Thank you so much for that. And also my life coaching services, Coach Me Greg. You can go to coachmegreg.com to learn more about how I can help you get to be the best version of yourself in this life. And I look forward to hearing from you. So before we get into the next episode, I'm just going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right. So we covered a lot in that first half, and great stories.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. I mean, everyone who's in entertainment and really knows these shows and people that you work with are going to enjoy it. It's just so great. So now let's get up to you've written for many people, for many shows, and one of the still I've worked with them once at Gotham Club in New York City. That's still is going to go down in history. It's probably the best sitcom in the history of television is Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And you were fortunate enough, because of your great mind, comedic mind, and your talent, to write 2 great episodes, which are The Cafe and The Suicide.
Yeah.
So great funny episodes. How did that come about? How did you get in the room with Seinfeld, and how do you pitch that? Say, hey, look, I got a couple ideas.
Yeah. Well, I knew Larry David before Seinfeld, way before. So when they did those first couple of Seinfeld Chronicles, which really wasn't the same as the show, I said, man, called him up. I said, boy, hilarious, incredible. And then he said, well, they just picked us up for 13. He said, so I said, well, all right. He said, would you come out and write on it? I go, yeah, sure. Because if my wife was pregnant, I was the father, supposedly. And anyway, that's a whole other podcast. Yeah. But anyway, so great, 13 episodes. It's going to be so funny. It's not going to be a hit because we think it's so funny. So great, 13, 13 things in a row, money and work, have some laughs. And so anyway, as you know, it became quite a thing. So, but I worked on the first full season, I think 28 shows or something. And so there's jokes of mine in other people's scripts, and there's jokes of other people's in my scripts. And it's just the ones that say your own name. It means you created them from scratch, even though there's a bunch of your jokes are on other episodes and everything, because you're there for every show, right?
Sure.
But anyway, the cafe was a true story because we lived on West 11th Street, a great little cute street in West Village, Greenwich Village, and I had a rent-controlled apartment. And that's what kept me in show business for years because I had the cheap overhead.
Lucky, yeah.
Beats talent all the time, So there was a little corner place. It was a restaurant, and it just opened, tiny, four tables. That's it. And then at night, this little Vietnamese guy, would put these tables outside the little restaurant, and he wore a Madras shirt, and he was kind of a sad-looking guy. And at night, a Madras short sleeve shirt, but nighttime he'd light the candles outside on the tables, and he'd button the top button of his Madras shirt. That was his after six wear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
changes.
For the
formal. It's after
toity clientele.
Yeah.
Ahoy polloi. And but the thing was, it's such a tiny place, but he had such a vast menu that it freaked me out. I mean, I became obsessed with this cafe. And I told my wife about it. She said, well, why don't you go in? I said, no, if I go in, I'll always have to go in. Because nobody else is going in.
Yeah.
And then nobody would go in, and put little signs up, free coffee with dessert, right? Nobody would go in, free dessert. Nobody would go in,
Yeah.
All my family died in the boat coming over here. Nobody would go in. No,
we'll pay you to eat. Nobody can.
Yeah, we'll just leave. You can just pick whatever you want. So anyway, I never.
And what, if I may ask, was that a Pakistani restaurant, or was that just filtered for?
He's a Vietnamese guy, I think.
Gotcha.
He wasn't Pakistani.
Yeah.
And so all I had to tell Larry was that, and Larry was great because I learned a lot from doing that show with Larry. Larry had some great visionary ideas, and of course, being so funny. But when you learn this. If I hear the idea, I can see 3 scenes already, and I don't even know what the story is. So that's a keeper idea.
Yes.
And for the B story, which is the secondary story, I remembered that I once dated a lovely, comely lass before I met my BM, my beautiful mate, years ago, who gave IQ tests. And she kept asking me to take an IQ test. And I kept turning it down. I didn't want to find out I was even stupider than I thought I was.
Because you were held back in acting school, so that's why.
Back in school, acting school, driving school, you name it. So we use that as Elaine takes the test for George.
Yeah, it's great.
Episode, yeah.
It is. It's a fun twist.
Yeah.
Because Costanza just can't. He's just so Larry David, can't get out of his own way, and just fibbing everything, like nonchalantly just climbed out. Climbed out the window of the first floor. Yeah. Just nonchalantly.
Sure. And the actor who played Babu Bhatt, gosh, I can never remember his name, but he's a wonderful English actor.
He is. He's a British actor. Yeah.
He came in and killed, and it makes you look like a genius when you get these great actors come in. It makes you look so good as a writer.
Yeah. Brian George.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good actor. Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I love the outtakes of that episode too, because there's so much bloopers that he and Seinfeld just keep losing it.
Yes.
It was brilliant. That was a really good episode. Well, how did the suicide come about?
Suicide came about because in this very same apartment I'm telling you about, this is years before I worked on Seinfeld, my wife and I came back from my mother-in-law's after Christmas. spent a couple of days there, and we started smelling something in the wall. We thought, oh, geez, it's just after Christmas, and oh, a mouse died in there. Oh man, it keeps getting worse and worse. And this isn't a very pleasant story, but then it gets bad, and I'm in the hall, and I notice, and I knock on the neighbor's door to see if he smells it too. And the door, I knock on like a movie, and the door opens up like that. The door is not locked. And I go in, and the stench is impossible. So I call the super,
That's his job.
Yeah, in an apartment building where people are paying $60 a month who've moved there in 1958, and they're the ones complaining about the services always.
Oh, always.
Pay your rent, you don't get any heat. You're paying $58 a month.
Right.
You don't need heat.
Yeah.
You should be ashamed to want heat, Yeah. Anyway, this guy shot himself in the head, my neighbor.
Oh, sorry.
His wife had left him just before Christmas Eve. And this guy used to, Phantom of the Opera had just come out. So this guy was playing the album to Phantom of the Opera 24 hours a day. It was like, I almost ready to kill myself, shoot myself. And then he would do the keys, 20 key locks, very, obsessive. And apparently there was, the super calls comes, we go in, he go, we better call the cops. The cops come when we use my apartment right next door. It's sort of the command center. I was all excited like Rob Petrie, the cops. I was all, my day is so boring, I wasn't doing anything. And so that's kind of what happened. That gave me the idea. But his wife, as soon as the body was out of there and she came back and took advantage of his rent-controlled apartment. Moved right back in.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, I thought of that as a story, but I wanted the guy to just be in a coma.
Yeah.
And Jerry wants to date the girlfriend. So what are the moral implications of that? And then the Drake's cake thing, that was a whole just kind of a thing. And that became a thing where whatever we would put in there, they'd send it to us, like Pez.
Okay. Yeah, the Pez. Yeah.
And crates of Pez things would come, Pez dispensers and candy. And then we put a thing in about sneakers, and sneakers would come. And we made a Drake's cake thing. We put that in because we knew they'd send us Drake's cakes. And they did cartons and cartons of Drake's cake. So shows became about, what do I need?
You should have thrown like a Ferrari in or something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Something better than Drake's. Yeah.
But you weren't great. Well, no, those are great. They're two great episodes. And the thing that always made Seinfeld just such a well-written show is how you learn all the characters and what they're going through, and how the thread was seamlessly smooth. And it's so hard to get to that point. But it just did it all did such a great job of doing that.
Because it's the cast too, man.
Oh, 100%.
Funny stuff, but if you don't have the cast,
look at Wayne Knight with the Drakes. He'll sell his soul in that episode.
He came in to audition for that.
I'm sorry.
I was there at the audition before he came in to play
Newman. Yeah.
And he comes in and he's hilarious. And then it makes me again. It looks like brilliant writing because this great actor's doing it.
Right. Yeah. They every character and the whole ensemble, even when they ended, with the final episode, how they all were in the courtroom, and you really start to look in that room and go, oh my gosh, look at the characters that were created by really talented people.
Yeah.
It's just such a great show, and it'll just live forever. Now that said, I got a couple things before I let you go. I want to talk to you about. You're in a great movie that was huge in my household growing up. We still quote it, my brothers and sisters, to the day.
Really?
And even my friends, we do love that, especially now. My friends are parents, and I'm an uncle, so it's just, and you can use those lines. 220, 221. You were in 1983, Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton.
Sure. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it really is a great movie. It's funny.
It is a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it can apply to any generation, really.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and how is it like working with Michael Keaton and Jeffrey Tambor?
Well, I knew Michael before. That's how I got. He called and said, "Look, there's a part in this movie I'm doing. It'll be a day or two or and I said, "Oh shit, yeah." Oh, excuse me. But
That's okay. That's okay.
I said, "Yeah, money and get to hang out with Michael." Who I knew.
Yeah.
So then I get there and it's Chris. It's that great actor,
Terry Garr.
Terry Garr, but also in our carpool, the guy from Taxi.
Christopher Lloyd.
Lloyd.
Oh yeah, I met him once.
Jeffrey Tambor fires us in the room there.
Yeah, yeah, you were staying.
Yeah, I get to jump up on the desk and everything.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Tambor was wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And I had just lost my father, and Jeffrey was so sweet about it.
Oh.
He had trouble later on down the line, but whatever that is. But
yeah,
and it was just a ball. It's just one of those things. Like, then here's the funniest part about it, though.
Yeah.
Okay, this is before I'm even married, before I had kids. So anyway, flash forward to 1990, whatever. My kids are born 92, 95. Anyway, when they're old enough, they're watching. We're at this house that I told you about, that Kofi Annan's house.
Sure.
And they're watching. They're in the TV room and they're watching. And they start screaming, "Dad, come in here!" And I go, I thought somebody's on fire, kids. And is that's you? And it was Mr. Mom. I had never told them I was in. I mean, they wouldn't have made any difference. And
right.
But it's just so weird, like this thing you don't even remember that you did.
Yeah.
All of a sudden your kids are going like, it's you.
It's you. That's Dad.
What's going on here?
What is happening here? He's on the desk. He's breaking up a fight. Is that real?
We can't get away from this guy. Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's great. No, it's such a thanks for sharing that, because it's such a great movie. And it just from top to bottom.
Marty Mull.
Oh, it's great. He plays such a great sleazy boss.
I work with him a lot.
Oh, I bet the stories, man, we could go on for hours. We could. But so this is how I wanted to. What we'll do is we'll shift to this, and then we'll plug with some great stuff that you have coming up. What I found really interesting about in as you've grown through life is you're born Jewish, and later on convert to Catholicism.
Yeah.
Now I'm a practicing Catholic. I'm practicing because I still trying to get in to heaven someday.
Yeah. For me, will you, when you get up?
Yeah, I will. I'll put in a good word.
I'll be there before you anyway. But
well, we all hopefully we all got a long
hope
time.
I get there.
But yeah, right. It is still time. But I do. I attend church regularly. I in my parish in upstate New York, I'm an appointed ambassador of Goodwill. I lecture.
Great.
I started the young adults group, and when I travel the country, I just I don't agree with everything in the church. There's a lot of stuff that they have bruises that it's finally coming to light, and they can move forward and heal. And then when I travel, it's sort of like a field trip, because I visit, new churches throughout the country, and I just need an hour away. I need quiet.
Me too. I love it.
I found what was great about your story is because you were turned on, I believe, initially. There's two things. One from, and I'm not sure, I think it happened first with your daughter, which was Gussie, correct? She had an extreme eating disorder.
Yes.
And then you were given a book called The Promise: God's Purpose and Plan for When Life Hurts.
Yeah.
What was your breakthrough of, seeing your daughter go through? I had a cousin that went through this, seeing your daughter go through this, really being brought, figuratively, I would say, to your knees to say, I need help and answers. And then and what opened up with Catholicism that really wanted you to go that route?
Well, I mean, I was always very proud to be Jewish, and my parents, thrilled. I mean, a comedy writer, as I always say, you don't get this funny not being Jewish,
Yeah.
You know, and so very proud, always, and still am, still consider myself both things.
Sure.
You know, like Roger Maris with the asterisks, you know,
Right.
Catholic with an asterisk, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Jewish with an asterisk, I don't know which. But yeah, a bunch of supernatural things began to happen to me. So much so that I never was the kind of person who could make an intellectual, I see, I'll be a Catholic. You know, for
Right.
me, it had to be like, okay, I get it. Okay, okay, stop. I get it. I get it. You know?
Yeah.
And so in this very sad period, I got, as you say, this book from Father Jonathan Morris, who ended up becoming one of my closest friends. I read this guy. It's so hard to list the litany of these things that happened, but it was a series of quite amazing things, culminating with going to see this psychic that I had seen when I was 20 years old, who predicted my entire career, and it was truly amazingly psychic.
Wow.
And so we were visiting at a hospital out in, you know, for Christmas Eve, where our daughter was. We could only see her that one day. It's Christmas Eve. We're in the desert in Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we get up, we go out at dawn. It's Christmas. We got to buy stuff from the dollar store for the tree. You know, the Tiffany Wickenburg, Arizona. We went to the dollar store, the Tiffany's of Wickenburg, and go around in the desert. And this guy, it's dawn, and this guy comes over this ridge out of the sun on a motorcycle with deer antlers for handlebars. This like very old guy, but like a Clint Eastwood, ragged ex-Marine looking guy, comes right up out of nowhere, like Lawrence of Arabia, comes and stops right in front of us. We're walking the desert, you know?
Yeah.
And it's Christmas Day. And he just starts talking to us like he's been talking to us. And he says, and he keeps looking at me and he goes, God is watching you. Oh, the night before, I really prayed for the first time. It was very sad. Christmas Eve, our kid was there, our other one was with us. And I really did it for real. Like, I don't never think I ever really prayed like, okay, I'm really going now.
Yeah. Right.
Go, you know.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, these things began to happen. One of this guy just saying, you know, coming out of the blue and saying, God is watching you. And a lot of how he came to Jesus at 33 and he's blah, blah, blah. And this is what? We don't, you know, I'm thinking it's a result of the Ambien, you know, from the night before, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ate a chocolate cake, and then here's this guy, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but a lot of things I won't go into. We have time for.
Of course. Of course.
Then some other things happened back in New York, and then a guy bought Father Jonathan's book, and really helped me. And then I wanted to go see the psychic who had predicted my life at 21, and he remembered me like 38 years later. I go down, Frank Andrews, who's very well known, and to go just to see, is everything going to be okay, you know. And I liked him anyway, and he really was accurate about everything. And just before we came back, we were taking our daughter back to the place, and it's sun's coming down. I see there's a balloon flight. You could take a hot air balloon flight, right? And so I go, oh God, let's give her some fun. And I pulled off, and I'm terrified of heights, but we're going to go in this balloon. And the guy says, no, it's getting too dark. I can't go up with you. Anyway, I go to the psychic. I go in and I see him, Frank. Yeah, he's great. And he gets down, he puts out the cards and everything. He says, never go in a hot air balloon ride. That's the very first thing he says. So he really is, if there is for real, it sure is, it's him, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, he didn't see anything. But on my way out of his townhouse downtown, I walk out in a black, my wife's waiting for me in a black sedan. I mean, a black, you know, town car pulls up, and out steps Father Jonathan Morris right in front of the psychic's place with the collar and everything. And that morning I'm looking at his book with his picture on the book right in my bedstand, you know. Wow. It's him. And it said in the book that he lives in Italy, in Rome. He worked at the Vatican. And he gets out of the car, and I go to my wife, that's Father Jonathan from my book. She goes, no. And I go, Father Jonathan. He looks and goes, yeah. He comes over. And I just started talking to him. Turns out the psychics shared a wall. His townhouse shared a wall with the rectory of Old St. Pat's Church, which I'd seen a million times, but it's as if I never had seen it before.
Yeah.
So the psychic and the rectory of Old St. Pat's shared a wall, right?
Okay.
He had just been transferred this first day from Rome to run Old St. Pat's down in Little Italy, which is a beautiful old basilica, right? So we made friends, and I said, "Could I come talk to you sometime?" I don't know why I did that, you
Yeah.
know, and I did, and we became close. And I ended up and some other things happening that I won't,
Yeah, sure.
kind of shocking and amazing. And I just felt like it really was given to me, faith was given to me. So what can I say?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great story. It seemed like everything was aligning for you, and there was someone watching over you. And I'm glad. And you know what? A lot of people don't listen to that, Tom. So
Yeah,
you took a chance, you listened, and it opened you up, and
yeah,
it's a really
blessing.
powerful story. It's a powerful coincidence.
Yeah, I guess there are. I don't know. Apparently, there are no coincidences, but
Well, there's no big or small ones to go back to a Seinfeld episode. There's just coincidence, not big and small. It's just
yeah, right.
coincidence. Yeah,
Lousy coincidences.
yeah.
The greatest part of the story, apart from coming to faith, was my best friend is Paul Schaefer.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he threw me. He's Jewish, and I was Jewish, and he threw me Tom Leopold's Last Day as a Jew roast at Sammy's Romanian kosher restaurant downtown.
Okay.
And all my friends came and roasted me, and it was written up in the papers, and we had a gospel band. And my friend Harry Shearer flew in full Orthodox rabbi outfit, do a intervention, and it was really one of the greatest nights of my life. And that Sunday, I was,
yeah,
into the church.
It's so great.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It is, and then that was nice of Paul to do, and then all your friends get together and understanding.
Paul's opening line was, "Isn't this amazing? How about this? Does Tom Leopold know how to abandon his people, or what?"
That's a great
line. Yeah.
I met him once too, Paul, at the Friars Club.
Friars, yeah.
Yep, and I took my dad to when they renamed it for Jerry Lewis.
Right.
That night, yeah, there's a lot of people there, but Paul was nice because if you're familiar with the CBS Orchestra, Felicia Collins, the guitar player, she's from Albany as well. She lives back in Albany as well. I'm friends with her. I had her on the show earlier this year. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. Yeah, and loved Paul and her whole experience there. So that's a great story. Thanks. That's an uplifting story too of how people are listening to that. So before I let you go and before you plug anything, I got one last thing to ask you. In regards to what you've seen in your stellar career of comedy and what's been going on in the world. And I guess before I pose the question is, I've always felt in my 21 years, and I've espoused this to people, is don't take it for granted. Stand-up comedy is it's like the Wild Wild West. It's the last frontier. There's nothing else in the world to where you can say anything and not get arrested. Because Lenny Bruce did all that stuff for us. I mean, there were people that laid that groundwork and roadway for us. And I do really say, don't take it for granted. And with what's happening in the world to where people are so sensitive and missing the point of comedy, and they assume that, no, you meant to be mean, when you're not inside my head, you're not understanding that it's making fun, it's making light, so it can be cathartic and get through these. What do you think the future of comedy is? Is it as good as it will ever be? Is it as strong, or is it weaker, or is it just keep forging ahead?
Well, I don't know. That's a big question.
I know.
I think we should just leave it a question. It's so big.
Great.
No, I'll try to answer it.
It's a great answer, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's perfect.
I mean, to me, it's way beyond just comedy. It's like regular people can't say certain things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When it was just okay that, comics aren't going to play the colleges anymore, I thought, well, so stupid and crazy. But now it's like, God, people are saying somebody didn't use the right pronoun and lost his job at a college where you're supposed to be able to have open discourse, right?
That's right.
So, I'll tell you what, though. I know I sure wouldn't want to be in one of those rooms we were talking about these days, because the room is the most sacred place to be vulgar, racist, sexist, anything, because you love everybody there, and you're
right.
and you want the filters to all dissolve, you know, to
Hmm.
get to something maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I would have been in prison 10 times over for, you know, the wrong word or this, and so would everybody else. Because
Oh yeah.
you know, it's like Don Rickles. You
Right.
just,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you'd like to see Don Rickles start out now, you know,
Oh
hey, there's a color guy over there, you know, yeah, sure, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
It would exactly, or try to
yeah,
get
they'd be
all
lynched.
try to get All in the Family on the air nowadays.
Right,
Yeah, you
right,
know.
right.
But I think you're right. I think you in part leave it as a question, and
I think it's what happened. It'll sync up with whatever happens in the country. Like it's got to come back. It's become so absolutely absurd,
yeah,
you know, that what you can say. And, oh my God! And you
I
can't.
know.
No, you
Uh,
can't say you don't want a vaccine. You lose your job. I mean, it's way
yeah,
beyond comedy now. It's
yeah,
now it's getting not to be so funny. Not,
exactly.
not
That's
being funny is getting to be not so funny.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's great too. Put that on
Yeah,
a shirt, Tom. Come on, we'll make $1 million.
yeah, yeah. I'll add that to my T-shirt.
Idea
Music.
collection. Yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Well, Tom, this has been a thrill. I really,
Oh, me
I
too.
want to
Thank you.
thank my guest Tom Leopold for coming on. That's my time. It's just so great.
That's my
Um,
Tom, I think, is what you should
that's
be.
my Tom today.
Yeah. Thank
But I
you.
really do. I've from afar. I'm glad we got to connect. I admire what you've written. I admire your mind, your candor. And your storytelling and what you've shared today. I really do appreciate it. So
Oh,
what do you have coming up? And where can people, aside from the social media, how we're connected, how else can people get in touch with
that's
you?
all. I don't have anything. I just have Facebook. People
Yep.
want to get in touch with me. They can, you know, for whatever reason. I can't imagine why they would, but
Maybe they want you to come and be part, of their party and come as
yes.
Andy Warhol. Come as Andy
I do.
Warhol.
I do appearances, in fact.
As Andy Warhol or Tom Leopold?
No, yeah, no, it's Andy Warhol. Yeah, I know. I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Bicycle messengers go, Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
How do they know who Andy Warhol is? You know?
Well, they study.
Yeah, it's nice to be connected to one of the ugliest men that ever lived.
No,
Oh, you look like the ugliest man that ever lived.
I think maybe it's just the hair. It's not.
Oh,
I
yeah, I
don't think
hope
it's
so.
any other physical
I won't
attributes.
take it personally.
And then what else? So you're excited? You've
You know,
got
I'm doing
something
this
coming up?
musical.
Yeah.
I'm doing this musical called Kip and Sylvia tonight on D Deck. And it's a musical comedy that I wrote. It's two people,
Mhm.
and we're doing it at the Triad Theater, September 19th.
Mhm.
And starring Richard Kind, the great Richard Kind, who's in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, he's great. He's
Everything.
hilarious. Yeah.
And a great Broadway comedian, Jackie Hoffman, both singers, and they're singing my songs. And it's about Kip and Sylvia Glasscock, the husband and wife songwriting duo who hate each other and have had horrible careers. And they're booked on the Concordia 2, the ocean liner. The Concordia 1 sunk. The captain wasn't paying attention and went into a reef, and 50 people died, and he left ship before anybody else. And now he's out of jail, and he's at the helm of the Concordia 2. And Kip and Sylvia, our Glasscock, are going to do an evening of their songs and the stories behind their songs. And that's what it's about. And it's at the Triad Theater, and it's called Kip and Sylvia tonight on D Deck. Look for it in a,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put. Yeah, and we'll put the word out. If this doesn't air in time for that, then now it's out in the ether. And
yeah.
I want it to get picked up and see good things because you got great writers and great actors helping you out
I got
there.
a dream cast.
Yes.
You don't get that very often.
No, you don't. Well, Tom Leopold, thank you very much for your time. Yeah, it's it's pronounced
Man.
Oh, it's pronounced Smythe. No, it's Aidala. It's Aidala. Yeah, we keep it easy. Yeah. Well, in Italian, it's Aidala, but my grandfather came over, just made it Aidala. Just
tried to Americanize it.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like when Jewish people do Bernstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Oh, here's Frankie.
What do you got, Frankie?
There's Frankie.
Oh, hello, Frankie.
My boy.
Oh, look at that, Frankie.
Yeah. He said, okay, Dad, get off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's enough.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So thank you, everybody, for watching this very special episode of That's My Time with the very funny Tom Leopold. You can go to that'smytimeshow.com to learn more about the show and upcoming guests that we'll be having. Until then, oh, and there's Frankie again. Thank you to my sponsors, QUAIL Auto Sales and CoachMeGreg.com. And again, the very funny Tom Leopold. I'm Greg Aidala, everybody, and we'll see you very soon.